Monica Harris stepped out of her sleek black car and took a deep breath of the warm afternoon air. The sun was shining brightly over the bustling city, and the wide street in front of her was lined with tall glass buildings that sparkled under the light. At the center of it all was an elegant row of high-end boutiques, each one decorated with polished windows, glossy doors, and carefully arranged displays designed to draw people inside. Monica had walked through many boardrooms and stood on many stages as a speaker, but in that moment, she was not thinking about work. She was thinking about her mother. Her mother's birthday was only a week away, and Monica wanted to give her something unforgettable. Her mother had been her strongest supporter since childhood, a woman who taught her to stay strong, to work hard, and to believe in herself when the world doubted her. This time, Monica wanted to give something that was more than just a gift. It had to be a symbol of appreciation, a reminder of love, and a token that said thank you for all the sacrifices made over the years. Jewelry seemed perfect. Monica adjusted her blazer, not the formal tailored one she wore during important meetings, but a softer, casual style that made her feel comfortable. She had left her office earlier than usual, escaping the ringing phones and constant emails, to walk down this street. Her company, a fast-growing technology firm, was her pride. She had built it from scratch, starting with only a small idea and turning it into a business worth millions. Many people admired her success, yet she knew that without her mother's encouragement, she would never have made it through the hardest nights of her journey. As Monica strolled closer to the boutique, she noticed the way the store gleamed from the outside. Its windows held necklaces that seemed to glow under the lights, rings that sparkled like stars, and bracelets with delicate designs. There was one display that caught her eye, a diamond bracelet, simple yet elegant, resting against a velvet cushion. She imagined her mother wearing it, her hand lifted slightly as she laughed at one of her favorite stories. The thought warmed Monica's heart. She pushed the glass door open, and a soft chime rang above her head. The inside of the boutique was quiet, with soft music playing in the background. The air carried a faint scent of fresh flowers, and every corner of the room seemed carefully arranged. The counters were polished, the glass was spotless, and each item was placed as though it belonged in a museum. Monica felt at peace here, as though she had stepped into another world far away from deadlines and business deals. She walked slowly along the displays, taking her time to look at each piece. Monica had the kind of patience that came from years of discipline. She wasn't going to rush this. This was for her mother, and she wanted the gift to be exactly right. The store had only a few other customers, most of them browsing quietly, their voices barely above whispers. Monica's eyes returned to the bracelet again, and she knew that was the one she wanted to see up close. As she leaned slightly over the counter to get a better look, she thought back to her childhood. Her mother used to work 2 jobs, sometimes coming home late at night, tired but still smiling. She remembered her mother's hands, always busy, always working, hands that cooked meals, folded laundry, signed school papers, and gently held her face when she needed comfort. A bracelet would rest on those hands like a crown on a queen. It would not erase the years of struggle, but it would honor them. Monica's heart filled with quiet joy as she imagined the surprise on her mother's face when she opened the little box. She could already hear her mother saying, "You didn't have to, baby," with that same tone she always used when Monica went out of her way. But Monica wanted to. She wanted to show her mother that every late night, every sacrifice, and every lesson had led her to this point. The jewelry sparkled under the lights as Monica finally turned to call for assistance. She noticed a sales associate across the room, neatly dressed, arranging a row of necklaces in their place. With a gentle smile, Monica prepared to ask for the bracelet. She felt calm, grateful, and quietly excited. Her footsteps echoed lightly as she walked closer to the counter. The polished floor reflected her figure back at her, reminding her of just how far she had come. From a young girl with dreams to a woman who had achieved them, this moment felt special. This was not about showing power or wealth, it was about love, pure and simple. She rested her hands on the counter and waited patiently, her eyes still fixed on the bracelet that had captured her attention. Everything about that boutique, the music, the scent, the shine of the jewelry felt like the beginning of a memory she would never forget. Monica stood at the counter, her eyes still locked on the diamond bracelet that had caught her attention. It shined in a way that reminded her of her mother's laughter, bright, warm, and unforgettable. With a small wave, she caught the attention of the sales associate, a young woman in a neat uniform who was arranging a display nearby. The associate walked over, but her smile was thin, more polite than genuine. Monica didn't notice it at first, she was too focused on the bracelet. "Excuse me," Monica said softly, "I'd like to see this one, please." She pointed to the delicate piece resting on the velvet. The associate glanced at her, then at the bracelet, and for a brief moment, something unreadable flickered across her face. Instead of reaching for the key to open the display, she tilted her head slightly and said in a careful tone, "That bracelet is one of our most expensive items. Maybe I can show you something more affordable from our other collection." Monica blinked, surprised. She hadn't expected that kind of response. She thought perhaps she had misheard. "No," she said kindly, keeping her tone even, "I'd really like to see that one." The associate gave a small, almost nervous laugh and shook her head lightly. "I understand, but this piece is, well, it's priced very high. A lot of people find it a bit out of reach." She gestured toward another display with simpler jewelry. "These pieces here are beautiful as well, and they're a little more reasonable." The words settled in the air like a shadow. Monica felt her heart tighten, not with anger but with an unexpected ache. For a moment, she stood still, processing what had just been said. She had walked into the store with so much excitement, her heart full of love for her mother, and now she was being quietly told that she didn't belong here, that she couldn't afford the very item she had chosen. Around her, the boutique remained calm, the soft music still playing, the other customers continuing their browsing as if nothing had happened. But inside Monica, a storm of emotions began to stir. She wasn't angry yet, not really. She was more disappointed. Disappointed that, once again, she had been judged by nothing more than appearances. She looked down at her outfit. She wasn't dressed in designer clothes that day, she had chosen comfort over display. Her blazer was simple, her shoes practical, her hair pulled back in a no-fuss style. Maybe the associate had looked at her and made an assumption, but assumptions had followed Monica her entire life. She remembered being a young woman in college, walking into a bookstore where she was told the textbooks were probably too expensive. She remembered the way people sometimes looked at her when she said she was the founder of a tech company, as if waiting for her to admit she was joking. She remembered the polite nods from investors who didn't take her seriously until they saw the numbers her company produced. And now, here she was, once again standing in front of a counter where her presence was quietly doubted. Monica took a slow breath. She reminded herself of her mother's voice, always steady, always encouraging. "Don't let anyone decide your worth," her mother used to say. "Only you know who you are and what you can do." She smiled gently at the associate, even though her heart felt heavy. "I appreciate your suggestion," Monica said, keeping her voice calm and kind, "but I'd like to see the bracelet I pointed to." The associate hesitated again, her hand hovering near the display case, then falling back. "I really think it might not be the best option," she said softly, her tone polite but firm. It's priced at a level that's not realistic for most people." Monica felt the words press against her like a wall. For a moment, she considered leaving, just walking out and finding another boutique. But something inside her told her not to. This wasn't just about the bracelet anymore. It was about dignity. It was about respect. It was about all the times she and people like her had been told they couldn't, when in fact, they could. Her eyes stayed calm, but there was a quiet strength in her voice now. "Thank you," she said softly. "Could you please call your manager for me?" The associate seemed startled, her eyes widening slightly. She nodded quickly, perhaps realizing that Monica was not going to simply walk away. As she stepped toward the back office to get the manager, Monica stood still, her hands resting gently on the counter. She thought of her mother again, how many times her mother had been underestimated, dismissed, or overlooked. She thought of how hard she herself had worked to rise above those moments. And as she waited, she felt her resolve harden, not out of bitterness but out of clarity. This was not the first time she had been told she couldn't. But it might be the last time anyone said it to her in this way. The manager walked into the boutique with a warm but slightly cautious smile. He was a tall man in a dark suit, his tie neatly in place, and his expression polite as he approached Monica. Behind him, the associate stood quietly, her hands folded, her eyes darting nervously from Monica to her boss. "Good afternoon," the manager said. "I hear you wanted to speak with me. Is there something I can help you with today?" Monica looked at him calmly, her posture straight, her voice steady. She didn't raise her tone, didn't let her emotions spill out in frustration. Instead, she spoke in the same measured way she did during board meetings when the stakes were high. "Yes," she said gently. "I came here today because I saw a bracelet I wanted to look at. But instead of showing it to me, your associate suggested I go elsewhere, as if I couldn't afford it." The manager's smile faltered just slightly. He glanced toward the associate, whose cheeks had grown pink, then back at Monica. "I apologize if you felt uncomfortable," he said carefully. "I'm sure there was some misunderstanding." Monica gave a small nod, but her eyes stayed sharp. "There was no misunderstanding," she said softly. "This isn't the first time in my life I've been told I don't belong in a certain place. I've spent years building a company, working day and night, pushing through every barrier. I came here today with one goal, to buy a gift for my mother. I didn't come here to be judged." The boutique had grown unusually quiet. A couple browsing nearby slowed their steps, pretending to admire a necklace while listening in. The manager cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable, but Monica's voice was calm, not confrontational. She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and with a few quick taps, she opened a document. She turned the screen slightly so the manager could see. On it were figures, proof of her company's valuation, her role as CEO, her success that spoke louder than any words could. "My name is Monica Harris," she said evenly. "I own a technology firm valued at several $1 million. I didn't come here to prove anything to anyone, but since I've been questioned, I'll tell you something. I'm not just interested in buying that bracelet anymore." The manager blinked, taken aback. "Oh." Monica's tone remained calm, almost gentle, but her words carried a weight that filled the room. "I'd like to make an offer for your boutique. Not just this store, your entire chain." The associate's mouth opened slightly in shock. The couple nearby stopped pretending to browse altogether. The manager stood frozen for a moment, unsure if he had heard correctly. You want to buy the store?" he asked, his voice unsteady. "Yes," Monica said with a nod. "I don't believe in walking away from situations like this with only her feelings. I believe in changing them. If this store can make assumptions about me, then it means it could happen to others. I don't want that. I want to ensure every customer who walks through these doors is treated with respect, no matter who they are or what they look like." Her voice was not loud, but it was steady, filled with conviction. It was the same tone she had used when pitching her company to investors who didn't think her idea would ever work. It was the same tone she used when standing in front of her team during the toughest times, assuring them they would succeed. The manager swallowed, his professional mask beginning to crack. He had never faced a moment quite like this. "Miss Harris," he said carefully, Something like this would require discussions, paperwork, and approval from the owners. Monica smiled slightly. I understand. I've been through acquisitions before. I know the process. Make the call. Let them know I'm interested. I'll have my financial advisor contact you within the hour. The confidence in her words was undeniable. She wasn't bluffing, and everyone in the boutique knew it. She was a woman used to making decisions, used to taking risks, used to standing firm when others doubted her. The associate, who had earlier dismissed her, lowered her gaze to the floor. The room felt heavier now, filled with the unspoken realization that appearances could be deceiving, and that the woman standing before them was not just a customer, she was a force. Monica turned back toward the bracelet, her eyes softening once more. And while we wait for the paperwork, she said gently, I'd still like to see that bracelet. It's for my mother's birthday. This time, the manager himself reached for the key, carefully opening the display case and lifting the bracelet out with steady hands. He placed it on a velvet tray and presented it to her with genuine respect. Monica picked it up delicately, the diamonds catching the light and reflecting in her eyes. She smiled faintly as she imagined her mother's reaction. Yes, this was the gift she had been looking for. But the moment had become so much more than a shopping trip. As she held the bracelet, Monica thought of the long road that had brought her here. She remembered the nights she had gone without sleep, building her company brick by brick, line of code by line of code. She remembered the meetings where her ideas were dismissed until they succeeded. She remembered the sacrifices her mother had made so she could chase her dreams. And now, here she was, standing in a boutique that once doubted her, now preparing to hand her the keys to ownership. The turning point had come quietly, without raised voices, without anger. It had come through calm strength, through quiet confidence, through the unshakable belief that dignity was worth protecting. Monica placed the bracelet back on the tray gently. Thank you, she said softly. I'll take it. And I'll take the store too. The words hung in the air like a promise, one that would change everything. The next few weeks passed in a blur of meetings, phone calls, and signatures. What had started as a quiet afternoon shopping trip had turned into a business decision that would change Monica's life once again. Her financial advisor had moved quickly. Within hours of that first conversation inside the boutique, documents had been drawn, phone calls had been placed, and the process had begun. Monica was no stranger to acquisitions. Her company had grown through many of them, each one teaching her patience, persistence, and strategy. But this one felt different. This wasn't just about expanding business, it was personal. She remembered sitting in her office late one evening, stacks of paperwork spread across her desk. The city lights twinkled outside her window, but Monica barely noticed them. Her pen moved steadily across the pages as she reviewed contracts, checking every detail. She wasn't only buying a store, she was buying a symbol, a chance to transform an experience of doubt into a message of empowerment. Her legal team handled the heavy lifting, but Monica was involved in every step. She wanted to know the history of the boutique chain, the employees, the policies, and the structure. She asked questions about customer service, training, and hiring. The more she learned, the clearer her vision became. A few weeks later, the final papers were ready. Monica signed her name with steady hands, feeling the weight of the moment. When she put down her pen, the boutique that once doubted her was officially hers. The news traveled quickly. Some were surprised, others impressed, but Monica didn't care about the chatter. For her, it wasn't about headlines or attention. It was about ensuring that no one else would walk into that boutique and feel the same quiet rejection she had felt. Her first visit as the owner was unforgettable. She walked through the same glass doors where she had once stood uncertain, but now she carried herself with a quiet confidence. The staff gathered, curious and nervous, unsure of what changes would come. Monica smiled warmly at them. "Good morning, everyone," she said, her voice calm but strong. I know many of you have questions. Let me start by saying this: I didn't buy this boutique to change its beauty, its elegance, or its charm. I bought it to change the way people feel when they walk through these doors. The employees listened closely, their eyes fixed on her. She continued, "This store, and every store in this chain, will be a place where every customer is treated with respect. It doesn't matter what they wear, what background they come from, or what anyone assumes about them. Respect will be the first thing we offer." There was silence for a moment, then a few nods from the staff. Monica could see the relief on some faces. They had likely witnessed moments similar to hers, and perhaps they too had felt powerless to speak against them. She went further. She introduced new training programs, focusing on empathy, diversity, and customer care. She arranged workshops where employees could learn not just how to sell jewelry, but how to connect with people, how to listen, and how to serve with kindness. Her approach was not about punishment. Monica didn't come in with anger or blame. She came in with vision. She knew real change came not from fear but from inspiration. She wanted her staff to feel proud of where they worked, proud of how they treated people. Still, some changes were necessary. The associate who had doubted her on that first day was no longer there. Monica had quietly let her go after the transition. It wasn't an act of revenge, it was a decision that came from a place of clarity. Trust in service could only be rebuilt with people who believed in respect from the start. Weeks later, Monica visited the boutique again, this time with her mother by her side. Her mother's steps were slow but steady, her eyes bright with curiosity. Monica had kept everything a surprise. She had told her mother they were going out for her birthday, but she hadn't explained where or why. When they walked through the glass doors, the staff greeted them warmly. Her mother looked around, impressed by the elegant displays. "This is beautiful," she whispered. Monica led her straight to the counter where the bracelet rested once more. The manager, now fully respectful, lifted it carefully and placed it before them. Monica picked it up gently, turning to her mother with a smile. "Happy birthday, Mom," she said softly. "This is for you." Her mother's eyes widened, and her hands trembled slightly as Monica clasped the bracelet around her wrist. Tears welled up as she looked at her daughter. "Oh, Monica," she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "You didn't have to." Monica shook her head, smiling warmly. "I wanted to. You've given me everything. This is only a small way of saying thank you." Her mother touched the bracelet with gentle fingers, her eyes shining with pride. "It's beautiful," she said. "But not as beautiful as what you've become." Monica felt her throat tighten. For a moment, she wasn't the CEO, the owner, or the businesswoman. She was simply a daughter, standing beside the woman who had carried her through every storm. After a pause, Monica leaned closer and whispered, "There's something else I need to tell you. This store, it's ours now." Her mother blinked, confused. "Ours?" Monica nodded, smiling softly. "I bought it. I bought the whole chain. I didn't want anyone else to feel the way I felt the first time I came in here. From now on, this will be a place of respect for everyone." Her mother covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she shook her head in disbelief. "Oh, Monica. I don't even have words." Monica squeezed her hand gently. "You don't need words. Just know this: everything I am, everything I built, it all started with you. And now, this is for you." The staff stood nearby, quietly touched by the scene. The boutique felt different that day, filled not just with polished jewelry and quiet music, but with something deeper: love, gratitude, and transformation. As they left the store together, Monica felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She had turned an insult into an opportunity, a doubt into a decision, and a painful moment into a lasting change. Monica sat in her office one quiet evening, Weeks after her mother's birthday. The city skyline stretched out beyond the glass windows, lights blinking like stars scattered across the horizon. The bracelet her mother wore was now a part of their daily lives. Her mother never took it off, often looking down at it and smiling as though she carried a piece of love on her wrist. That thought alone gave Monica peace. But tonight, as she leaned back in her chair, Monica allowed herself to reflect on everything that had happened. She thought of the day she walked into the boutique, filled with simple excitement about a gift. She thought of the way her joy had dimmed in a single moment when someone told her, politely but firmly, that she couldn't. And then she thought of how she had turned that moment into something greater, into change, into ownership, into a story that would inspire not just herself but others. She opened her notebook, something she often did when she wanted to clear her mind. On the first page, she wrote a sentence she had learned from her mother: "Never let anyone decide your worth." Those words had carried her from childhood into adulthood, through every boardroom, every challenge, every late night. And they had carried her here, to this turning point in her life. The boutique chain was now fully under her leadership. She had made her mark not by changing the sparkle of the jewelry or the design of the stores, but by changing the spirit inside them. Customers noticed the difference. They felt the warmth in the way they were greeted, the respect in the way they were treated, and the genuine care in the way the staff helped them. People who once felt nervous walking into such elegant stores now felt welcomed, safe, and valued. Letters began arriving at her office. Customers wrote about their experiences, sharing how they had never been treated with such kindness in a luxury store before. Some said it was their first time buying something from a boutique, and they had walked away not just with jewelry but with confidence. Monica kept those letters in a drawer, pulling them out whenever she needed a reminder of why she had made the choice she did. Her employees, too, felt the change. Training sessions had opened their eyes, helping them see the importance of every word, every glance, every gesture. They began to take pride not only in selling fine jewelry but in giving fine service. Many of them wrote Monica notes of gratitude, saying they felt proud to work for someone who valued respect as much as success. Monica often thought back to her mother during these moments. She remembered how her mother worked 2 jobs, often without complaint, always reminding her that kindness was stronger than bitterness. It was her mother who had taught her the quiet strength of patience, the courage to dream, and the determination to keep moving even when others doubted her. The store was more than an investment, it was a tribute to her mother's lessons. One afternoon, Monica attended a small event hosted at one of the boutiques. She stood quietly in the corner, watching as customers browsed. A young woman walked in, her clothes simple, her shoes a little worn. Monica noticed the way she looked around, her eyes bright with admiration but also a little hesitant, as if she wasn't sure she belonged there. An associate walked up to her with a smile, greeting her warmly. "Welcome," the associate said kindly. "Take your time. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to see." The young woman relaxed, smiled, and slowly walked toward a display of rings. Monica's heart swelled as she watched. That simple moment, an honest smile, a kind word, was exactly what she had hoped for. She didn't step forward to reveal who she was. She didn't need to. She simply stood back and let the moment unfold. Later, as she drove home, Monica thought about how far she had come. From the little girl who dreamed big, to the young woman who struggled against doubt, to the CEO who had built a thriving company, her journey had been shaped by challenges. But those challenges had never broken her. They had built her. She remembered a quote she once read: "Turn your wounds into wisdom." That was what she had done. A moment that could have left her feeling small had instead pushed her to create something bigger. She had taken disappointment and turned it into direction. That night, she had dinner with her mother. They sat at the table, laughing, sharing stories, the bracelet shining under the warm light. Her mother reached across the table, resting her hand on Monica's. "I'm proud of you," she said softly. Not because you bought a store, but because you didn't let the world change your heart. You stayed kind, even when you had every reason not to. Monica smiled, her eyes misting. I learned that from you. The words hung between them, gentle and true. In the weeks that followed, Monica received invitations to speak at events, to share her story. People wanted to hear how she had turned one painful moment into empowerment. She accepted some invitations, not to boast, but to inspire. On stage, she stood tall, telling her story with honesty. She spoke not about wealth or power but about dignity, about kindness, about respect. And each time, she ended her speech with the same words, your worth is not decided by others. It is decided by you. Walk into every room, every store, every place you go, knowing who you are. And if someone tells you that you don't belong, remember this sometimes, that's exactly the place where you're meant to build your legacy. The audiences always clapped, some with tears in their eyes, others with determination in their expressions. Monica knew then that her story wasn't just hers anymore, it belonged to everyone who had ever been doubted, dismissed, or underestimated. As she stood by her window one last time, looking out at the shining city lights, Monica felt a calm sense of fulfillment. She had turned a simple shopping trip into a moment of change. She had turned doubt into dignity. And most importantly, she had honored her mother, the woman who had taught her that the strongest victories are won not with anger, but with grace. The world outside kept moving, cars rushing, lights glowing, people hurrying about their lives. But inside her heart, Monica felt stillness. She had found her peace, her purpose, and her reflection was clear. Life would always bring challenges, but she would always have the power to turn them into something beautiful.